I do believe, and I've spoken about a number of concerns that I have about the project from its inception, specific to the way the contract was negotiated. And I know that this is a post-facto conversation. The contract is what the contract is, but I do believe that the contract was designed and negotiated in a way that protects the vendor, minimizing all risks to the vendor, putting all risks on the school board, and that's not a position that I enjoy being in. So I am at this point exploring every single financial and legal option as we move forward to minimize the board's risk and exposure under the current contract. As I say that, I recognize that there is a contract and there is a project in motion, and as I've told the individuals from KPMG, I agree with their recommendation that in fact we ought to stick with this project. A great deal of investment has been made, and the replacement of legacy systems is a priority for our school system. Systems, necessarily with the best interest. Deborah Karcher, the executive, the implementation, and the day-to-day work of ERP have always been in ITS, and the project should have been there. It is not lost to you, I'm sure, that sometimes we make decisions in this school system not necessarily with the best interest of the district in mind, or perhaps the most efficacious business practices in mind, and I do believe that this process was politicized up front, unfortunately, resulting in a product that's being built and a process that's flawed. We're going to move forward with this project. The finance module needs to be introduced. Otherwise, we will have paid for a project that, quite frankly, has been gutted, in my opinion, with a lesser than optimal benefit to the school system. I'll make two additional points. It is honestly disheartening to see, reflecting back on the project, the way it was presented to the board, that in fact, in my opinion, and this is an opinion that I espoused long before I read the final KPMG report. It is my opinion that the total cost of ownership and implementation for this project was never, I must say this carefully, was never properly disclosed to the board. We've come across information and evidence that in fact the project was always estimated to be costlier than what was presented to the board, taking into account the value of backfilling positions, taking into account timing issues, and timing was also an issue that I believe was understated to the board. This was rushed from the get-go, quite frankly increasing the liability to the board because there are stiff penalties if the district does not comply with the very strict guidelines as far as timing and implementation. So, unfortunately, the return on investment as originally stated may in fact be overstated because the total cost of ownership, inclusive of training and implementation, were understated. And at the end of the day, if full payment is made without changing anything, what we're really left with. And in my opinion, I don't think we'll be left with much if something doesn't radically change. So I'll be engaging the contractors in this project to renegotiate at no additional cost, and this is important, perhaps not the most palatable message, at no additional cost, recognizing the fact that the risk was assumed all by us and the financial benefit all to the client or to the provider. Negotiate a possible solution if we are to consider continuing the project. Continuing the project, continuing to assume 100% of the risk, resulting in a product that's less than what the board envisioned having, which would be inclusive of the financial component. And continuing the project also without recognizing that the total cost of ownership was understated and the return on investment in the end was understated. It would be foolish and it would not be a course of action that I would recommend. So it is with this in mind that I let you know that ERP, BOSS, is a priority for me. I do believe that we need to be conscientious about what we'll be doing here. At the same time, I want you to be aware that I do have serious concerns about the findings in this report, and we'll be having a number of discussions with the board, including a board workshop, where we will delve into the possible courses of action that as a district we can take. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Also, a lot of questions around what's been spent. If you notice that the total project budget is $85.4 million. To date, we have spent $34.138. Most of these costs, as you can see, are basically in consulting fees, staffing, and software. We bought all the software up front, and the remainder of the funds to be spent on this project are $51 million. That's current as of today. If you go to the next, okay. And we now know what that number is. And after including these numbers, resources, and time into the overarching plan, we feel that it's not a 4-week delay. It's conservatively a 3 to 4 month delay. Taking out the finance module made things very, very complex and added a lot of work to the ITS staff, somewhere around 600 person days. With that, I just want to point out the consequences of canceling the project is that if you were to cancel now, you have spent $34 million and you don't have anything. We have software in a box, but that's it. But let me just say there is one module that we have on our legacy system, the financial module, that is a black box for us, and we cannot get to that. So as we continue to change operating systems on our mainframe, there's a point in time when we're not sure if it will continue working, and we can't fix it. The HR and payroll do not have that same problem, but that has become a key concern for us now.
Is why was the finance piece taken out? Why was that removed, and at whose approval, whose suggestion? How did that come about? Because I didn't understand that from all the material I've read. I don't know where that came from.
Madam Chair, I'm not going to answer the question, but I'm going to ask Steve Maldonado to speak to that. And I'm going to remind Steve and those of you who were at a less than comfortable meeting about this topic not that long ago, to actually start with the sub-rosa conversation rather than the most obvious answer. So the real reason why this module was deleted.
So what we saw, I would say,